Does anyone else think it's weird how Vaush nails having burning appeals to, like, we're working class people, but then he can't take any notes from that strategy in terms of advocacy? I don't know what that means. Were there typos there? It frustrates me when I see a message that I feel like I could springboard off of, but I don't know what the f you're saying because there's like one or two key typos. Damn it. Oh, okay, you gave it another try. Does anyone think it's weird how Vaush will nail Bernie Sanders appealing to working class rural voters, but seems incapable of applying that same strategy to his own advocacy? Well, actually, okay, you know what? I'm willing to engage with that fairly. A couple of points. First of all, we never got a real test of Bernie Sanders support, but I guarantee you that rural America would not have been swarming to support him, because most people vote on cultural issues. But I think that's a tangential response to your point. I think that was a glancing attack. Now I will attack you directly, okay? Now it's over for you. Write your will while I construct this. I have, in recent years, criticized Bernie Sanders for not being mean enough. And I think it's true. I think that what a lot of people who support Bernie Sanders need to learn is that his policies are excellent, his broad messaging is excellent, but you cannot win in this environment without directing overwhelming contempt against the people who are ruining this country. Because at the end of the day, people vote based on American appeal, or not American appeal, sorry, I mean maybe American appeal, based on emotional appeal. I think that you need to harness that vitriol. You know, you need to have like an overwhelming cultural mandate. Can you imagine how Bernie Sanders would do in a debate against Donald Trump? See, debates between Democrats are mostly policy focused. How do you think he would have done against Donald Trump, right? I think he might have gotten trashed. Okay, fine. I don't think so. Because I think Bernie Sanders would have talked the same way he does at his rallies. He would have said things that are correct. And then Donald Trump would have dog-walked him with 78 lies and emotional narratives that he wouldn't have a response to. And there's no way Bernie Sanders could respond to those lies without changing his tone. And I don't think he can change his tone, because I think he's genuinely a very nice and level-headed guy. I don't think he can be angry enough. I remember 2016. I remember Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton was far smarter than Trump and had better policies and retorted well to what he said, and then she lost. And I think that Bernie is quite a bit less antagonistic than Hillary Clinton. You know, it's about that emotional narrative. I just don't buy into the idea that you just need the right, you need the correct broad working class appeal. Now Bernie holds his own in debates, not against Donald Trump. You've never seen him debate Donald Trump. What about Bernie would have won? I think that if Bernie went up against Donald Trump in 2016, he would have won. I think that if Bernie went up against Trump in 2020, it's a wash. And I think that if Bernie went up against Donald Trump in 2024, he would have gotten dog-walked. And I don't mean that because of Bernie's age changing. I mean that because Trump became more hateful and more detached from reality. And I think that made him stronger. Trump got more votes with each, you know, he grew in power between elections, you know? I'm only speculating. So Americans are retarded, got it? Yeah, of course, obviously. That's the implicit message underlying everything I'm saying, yes. Yeah, Trump's lies became bolder. Yeah, how do you think Bernie Sanders would have dealt with they're eating the cats and the dogs? Like, seriously. I know that in your head, you're imagining he would have this, like, level-headed response. You'd like, you know, Donald Trump wants to distract you with these ridiculous stories. He wants to tell you lies. He wants to make you fearful. But what you need to be fearful of is your health insurance premiums. Something like that, right? And look, we would have loved it, okay? I don't know how well that would have landed, genuinely, against like an overwhelming tide of misinformation and hatred and vitriol and like middling messaging from Democrats. Look, I'm not saying his policies or he is bad. I'm saying he needs to be like if you could take him and you could beef that up with hatred against evil people, I think you would have more. And I don't know. Doesn't it say a little bit that, like, right now, Bernie Sanders is substantially less popular and less politically influential than he was back in 2016 when the primary opponents that he had to contend with were other Democrats? I've said this before, but like the matchup, it changes depending on who you're up against. This is not an environment. Nobody's even talking about healthcare anymore. Right? The healthcare conversation in 2016 was Medicare for all, single payer, or continue the ACA. And right now, the healthcare conversation is $800 billion lost from Medicaid. That's where the combo is. Right now, the conversation is, do you even get healthcare? Kowalski, you're not taking this one. I'm sorry. So basically, Sanders is too good for this world. I think that Sanders is a very good person, and I obviously like him very much. And I will always like him unless he does something crazy. I mean, yeah, I'm clearly not anti-Sanders at all. I just think that, like, we have to wake up and smell the roses a bit. When I see people who are like, well, the way we win is with a broad working class appeal, I think you are, like, a decade out of date with your messaging. That is so obviously not what's happening right now. Like, you're like talking to the SPD in 1932. You're like, listen, okay, what you just need to, like, it's just welfare reform, okay? You just need to, okay, listen, all right? You need to refinance the fucking Treaty of Versailles debts, okay? That's what'll win us. You know, we just need we need to make people's lives better. Broad working class appeal, you know? The working class voted for fascism, man. Remember, more educated, wealthier voters, for the first time in decades, voted for Kamala Harris. Lower education, lower income voters voted for Donald Trump. If we direct our hatred towards rural people instead of the capital class, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. What are you inventing in your head? What are you talking about? I'm just talking about, like, pointing out the fact that rural America fucking sucks. Why do you, but with your proposal that we abandon all of our anti-bourgeoisie messaging and instead direct it principally against the rural America, what are you talking about? Come on, you're being crazy, okay? Yeah, this ain't a DSA meeting, okay? Calm down. What is your proposal then? Make fun of rural America? What do you mean? I've been doing that for, like, ages. Was my proposal. DSA meeting, ass motherfucker. Remember, snap, don't clap. Point of privilege, point of personal privilege. I grew up in Los Angeles. That's wild to me that people can't understand maybe vehement antagonism is a useful tool in an era where fascism is rising. Do you think there's an overlap between the people who think that's bad and the people who are okay with making broad derogatory statements about white people or men? Even though, on average, a rural person is more likely to be a backwards racist piece of shit than a white person or a man is? Got your ass. Rural areas aren't 90 to 100% Republican. They're more like 60 to 65. Okay. And? So? You talk about how rural areas are dog shit and full of racists and backwater hicks or whatever, and then the 40 to 35% of people who aren't in that category or whatever will be like, yeah, fuck those guys. Like, if you're a progressive rural American and you see anti-rural messaging and your response to that is like, no, we're actually the beautiful, earnest heartland of America, you can't say that. What are you doing? Like, isn't that exactly the same as other countries? Like, people from other countries being like, damn, America's a shithole. Why the fuck did they vote for Trump? And you being like, no, nuh-uh, not every American voted for Trump. Don't judge all of us. Like, what are you doing? Come on. No one fucking cares. No one gives a shit, okay? You know what we're talking about. Nobody's going to build like the bedrock of populist messaging off of, oh, I hate 60% of rural America. Oh, I'm angry at 51% of America for voting for Trump. Like, come on, don't, like, if you take that shit personally, you're just like reaffirming the sensitivity that got the bad electoral outcomes to begin with, you know? Type shit.